Trying to get my Instagram live set up, so we are live on Periscope and Instagram. We'll get started about 9 o'clock, 2 minutes from now. I'm not in the batting cage. I'm on vacation with my family. My daughter's trying to come out on the porch, that's all. Couple minutes and we'll get started. I got a couple topics for this evening, kind of the same thing we did last week, and I will answer questions at the end. So a couple more minutes, we'll let people get in here and we will get started. Again, this is kind of something new this week on Instagram for sure. Had great reaction, great feedback from the Periscope last week, so I'm gonna make this kind of a weekly thing and get on here, talk hitting, talk player development, talk baseball, answer questions. I get a lot of questions over the course of a week. I tweet a lot, so to get on here at the end of the week and add clarification or add more context to the conversation, we're going to make it a regular thing. Hopefully it'll go well. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you share the show, and we'll see where it goes. I don't know. I don't really have plans for stuff. I just ready, fire, aim kind of thing, and hopefully they work out and you get value from them. Okay, so 9 o'clock. Here's what I want to talk about. I tweeted if you're watching on Instagram and you don't follow my Twitter, Twitter's just my ongoing conversation for weekly just banter, brain dump ideas. I just put a lot of stuff on there. So if you're watching on Instagram and you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. A lot of the stuff that we'll talk about on the Sunday Swing Show, it will be from conversations on Twitter. Last Sunday, and I thought about talking about it last Sunday, but I skipped over it because I already had some topics from the previous week on. But I posted a video of Aaron Judge and said extension was a myth, and that's not totally true. But I wanted to add a little more context to what I was talking about when I talk about extension. I think extension by and large is something that's a non-teach in the world of coaching. I think extension is a product of acceleration. I say this a lot. The space in front of you, or the space behind you, is a lot more important than the space in front of you, and how good you are in the space behind you will determine what happens in the space in front of you. So to make sense of that is a guy like Aaron Judge, who is 6'7". If you saw his 2013 draft report, it would have been largely accurate had he been a guy who had to get space and have space in front of him. What he was looking for and what he's developed is really accelerating the barrel behind him, getting it on plane early, and not having to worry about the space in front of him, not having to worry about extension or anything of the like. I posted today on my Twitter just barrel extension 101 as a product of centrifugal force. That's just the accelerating body, the centrifugal force of the accelerating body produced through the barrel, just accelerating out the end of the barrel. It's the end of the kinetic chain. Again, one of the teaches of extension is palm up, palm down, push through contact. What happens when you push through contact is you lose the plane of the swing, that if you've done a good job behind you, you'll just push right through the plane of it. And B, you really stop and slow down the acceleration. I saw somebody, maybe Diamond Kinetics or somebody tweeted this week. Maybe it was Diamond Kinetics. I don't remember. It's not important. No. It was the Wake Forest video. It was the guy talking about the head-on collision. Okay, you're trying to create a head-on collision, not a glancing blow. And this is the comparison that I will use for extension, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Say two cars are 100 feet apart, and they're going to accelerate towards each other. This car out here accelerates to top speed. This car right here slowly accelerates, and as it's getting ready to hit, it speeds up and hits the other car. Now, that's not going to produce a lot of force. That's if it had gotten to top speed early, okay, and then they would have hit head on. A lot of what you see in hitting is guys are producing glancing blows from off-plane swings. You want to produce head-on collisions that are accelerated to top speed as fast as possible. If the fastest part of your swing is out in front of you, you're just going to have problems, especially with top-end pitching, top-end velocity. That's all. You're just not going to be able to get behind pitches early enough that are 94, 95 to be able to do any kind of damage with them. And Aaron Judge is a perfect example because at 6'7", he would have had no shot to hit top-end pitching unless he figured out, obviously, what he's doing today, which he's clearly figured it out. But that was kind of what I meant. It's not that extension is not important. It's just not a teachable part. It's just a byproduct of deep and early acceleration. So that's all. The second thing I want to talk about, the backwards bike video. I don't know if you saw the backwards bike video. I posted it on my Facebook. I posted it on my Twitter. Awesome. I don't know, to kind of explain to you what that is a guy built a bicycle where you turn the handlebars to the right, the wheel turns to the left. When you turn the handlebars to the left, the wheel turns to the right. Okay, it was a study about how the brain goes on autopilot, say when it learns a specific skill like riding a bike. The guy was talking about could you unlearn how to ride, or could you unlearn how to ride, or could you forget how to ride a bike, or could you relearn how to ride this bike where the handlebars were backwards? The answer was no. It took him 8 months. It took the guy 8 months to figure out how to ride the bike with the handlebars being backwards. Okay, so what you can kind of relate to in hitting is when the brain figures out how to execute a skill or execute a movement or execute a pattern, it will always kind of default into autopilot of executing that pattern, such as riding a bike. If you introduce something like the handlebars being backwards, all of a sudden the brain is like, what is this? Like, I don't know exactly what this is. And then the brain turns back on, creates new neural connections, creates new just patterning that allows you to learn, because the nervous system is now incorporating differently. Two things you can take from that. A is the brain in autopilot. Hitting is the same way. If you've executed the same move forever, then unless you introduce a different implement, then you're not going to be able to change a specific pattern, A, in a short amount of time, or B, at all, because the brain is so powerful. The central nervous system, once it learns the skill, it just turns on to autopilot, and that is by and large, you're kind of set, unless you change the implement. I talk about this a lot. Weighted bats are very, 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 very important to your development as a hitter, especially as an older hitter, because you have to fire your nervous system on, get your brain going, and get your brain thinking, wait a minute, this is not what I'm used to doing, and then you start to develop new neural connections. The weighted bat programs that we use in the facility, they work. I don't coach swing. I don't, by and large, coach a lot of swings. I don't use a lot of internal cues. I just outline the basic parameters and then give them the bats, lay out the program, and they do it, and their swings become more efficient because they are into a different pattern. They are moving different implements. The brain is incorporating, the brain is on, the central nervous system is firing, and it works. It works better than internal cueing. Not that internal cueing doesn't work, because we use some internal cueing to outline the basic parameters of the movement that they're trying to execute, but we do not use internal cueing for much after that. We just let them figure it out. Go and figure it out. Here are the weighted bats. Here's the end load. Here's the knob load. Here's the underweight. Here's the T drills. Go and do. And by and large, ball exit speed goes up, bat speed goes up, the efficiency of their swing goes up, and now it's governed by the intent of their swing, which is to drive the ball in the air. We don't overcomplicate matters. You do those things, you don't have to say a whole lot as a coach. A lot of coaches don't like that, because they like to put their 2 cents in or show how smart they are. You don't have to say a whole lot. Just, here's the weighted bats, here are the parameters, go execute the move, and all of a sudden you'll see more efficient movements out of your hitters. Another thing that to point out about the backwards bike video, it took the guy 8 months to learn how to ride the backwards bike. Way to make your own weighted bats. Yes, I'll get to that. But it took the guy 8 months to figure out how to ride the backwards bike. The guy, I don't know, the guy's probably my age, 34, 35 years old. He made one for his son, who, I'm not sure how, but he was really small, probably not been riding a bike very long. He made the backwards bike for his son. It took his son 2 weeks to learn how to ride it. So I told my young guys, I do very young, basic beginner private sessions. It's the only private sessions I do with 8, 9, 10-year-old kids who are just getting started. But I told them this week that it is better to have no coaching than bad coaching, because in those critical years of motor pattern learning, then it is important that you get the intent right. It is important that mainly that you get the intent right, because the intent, if you get inside the parameters of setup and hinging and those things, the intent will govern the swing, and it will be a lot easier to do, because those years of learning, those formidable years of 8, 9, 10 years old, it doesn't have to be real complicated. I get videos all the time of people who have 8, 9, 10-year-olds. Well, you look at my kid's swing and they look awesome. Just don't let him try to hit the ball on the ground. Try to hit it up. Try to get into these basic positions and let intent rule the day, because at that age they adapt so quickly, because their brain is on all the time, and their brain is always acquiring new motor skill learning and new pattern development and new stuff, because they're young. That's what they do. I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old who were standing at the window, and again, my daughter just had to learn how to ride her bicycle. She picked it up reasonably quickly. If you or I were trying to learn a bicycle now, it would take forever. Just because that's what we kind of fall. Your brain always kind of falls into what it knows. And again, in hitting, if you are where you are and you're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old and you're trying to change your swing, you need to use some form of weighted bats. You have to. As part of your program, you have to do that. Whether you use my program, whether you use the Driveline Axe Bat program, whatever you use, I don't care. You just have to use it. It's super important that you do, because you just can't take your bat and smash balls off the tee and change a complex motor pattern, especially in stressful reactionary environments such as hitting a baseball in a game. You're just always going to kind of default to the same move that you've always made. No matter how many balls you smash off the tee, it doesn't work. I watch it every day. Kids wasting their time smashing balls low off the back of the cage, and I'm thinking, you would have been better spending an hour, at the swimming pool with your buddies, because you haven't really done anything, because you're going to get the same outcome in the game. So, got to get the weighted bats. Got to get on the weighted bat program if you're gonna really affect change in your movement pattern. Otherwise, over time, you're just going to kind of always default back into what you learned in the formidable years of your motor skill and motor pattern development. I've got guys now who it's tough, but it's doable with weighted bats. Without weighted bats, I don't see how you can change motor pattern. I just it's very, very hard. So my last topic is this, and this got a lot of attention on Twitter, is the showcasing versus the player development. I'm not anti-showcasing by any means, but if you don't have a player development plan, then you are essentially sailing a rudderless ship. Because by and large, the college you will play at is the college that you will be good enough to play at, and that's the truth. Like, if you're not good enough, you won't play somewhere. Like, there's no book, there's no like national treasure book of secrets on how to get into the SEC. The guys that play in the SEC are good enough to play there. The guys that don't are not. And if you don't have a development plan while you're showcasing, you're sailing a rudderless ship. You are better off, and then I tweeted this, if you throw 75 miles an hour and you run a 7.6 and you hit balls at a low exit velocity, you're better off just to stay home and train and try to figure it out, because showcasing is that. You are showcasing. For some of you, it will be, I do have the talent. For others, it will be, I don't have the talent. So if you are those things, then you need to stay home and you need to train and you need to figure them out, because if you go out and you get in front of these people and those are your measurable tools, then people will always see you as that, and they will, by and large, they're not going to be interested in you as a player. They will and I think I said this on Twitter this week, 75% of the players that are showcasing regionally don't have business showcasing regionally. You either need to be good enough to showcase regionally in front of these major D1 schools, or you need to pick out schools that are within a 50-mile radius of where you live and zero in on those and treat it. People ask all the time, well, how do I get recruited? Well, how do you get a new job? You have to have, obviously you have to have the skill, but two, you have to network, you have to make connections, you have to follow up, you have to treat it as really your first job interview. A dad asked me, well, how would you apply for a new job? Would you just blindly, if you were, freshly graduated, would you blindly apply to NASA, or would you try to work your way through the system and get to the top? Like, people want to start at the top and work down, and that's not a good strategy for recruiting. Just be real with yourself, where you are with your tools, and treat it as a job application, job interview. And if you don't have the tools, then you need to train and develop the tools to the best you can. I understand that everybody's tools are different, everybody's measurables are different, but you have to develop your tools as best you can. If you're not doing that, then you're by and large wasting your money prancing around, showcasing everywhere. So get a player development plan, mine, anyone's. And then while you're showcasing at these tournaments, you need to be working on your development also, your arm strength, your foot speed, your overall strength, and your exit velocity, launch angle development, because those things will get you recruited. Not anything else. Not a secret. Not a showcase. Not a thing. You will play at the school that you are good enough to play at, and that is it. If you're not good enough to play at the school, you won't play at the school. So those are the topics. Extension, the space behind you is more important than the space in front of you. The backwards bike video, and motor pattern and brain neural development, and then showcase and player development. Player development first, develop the measurable tools, showcase those tools. If you're not developing your tools and you're showcasing, you're by and large sailing a rudderless boat. You don't have any direction. You're not doing anything. You're just hoping that it works out, and that's not a good strategy, especially the amount of money that people spend on showcasing. My word, somebody was on me about the price of my player development program, which is $125. People will spend $6,000 to go and showcase, and I want $125 for a year for access to all of my programs. And so I think that's fair. Somebody asked a question about weighted bats. I did a video on YouTube how you can make your own weighted bats. We use lag screws. We use wooden bats, drill holes in the end in a cupped wooden bat. We put lag screws down in them with heavy washers. We weigh the washers on a digital scale. We progress through a 3, 5, and 7 ounce in-load knob weight, and then a fungo we use for the light bat that we have drilled out, that we progressively take weight out of it to make the bat lighter. So the difference is always within, the difference of the weight, the end and the knob load is always within 22.5%. They say the studies show that within 20%, within 20% is enough, close enough to the weight that you get carry over to the actual swing. You get too heavy, it just doesn't carry over. It's not specific enough to the actual weight. Somebody on Instagram just asked, how do weighted bats change motor skills? When you swing the same weighted bat, your brain is in autopilot. This is the same bat that I've always had. This is the way. When your brain figures out how, and when your body figures out what the most efficient way to do things is, it always goes there. So when you take your regular bat and you say, okay, I'm going to hit these balls the same way I've always hit these balls, your brain just says, okay, I got this. This is the way it's always been done. This is what I'm going to default to, especially in high stress reactionary scenarios. If you want to affect change that's going to matter in a game, you have to change motor pattern and motor skill development. When you put a weighted bat in your hand, whether it's a knob or an in-loaded or a knob weighted bat, now all of a sudden your brain is like, okay, this is different. This is different, and your brain starts firing, and your muscles incorporate differently. I heard this one. You may have seen this, but there's like 16 billion different ways to pick a pencil up off the ground. There's about 3 ways to pick up 300 pounds off the pound. So the heavier the weight, the more efficient your muscle firing becomes. So that it's not that specific, but the more weight you add, the more efficient your muscles are going to move the implement. I use this with young kids a lot that don't use their legs and don't turn their hips and don't do these things, that if you gave them an axe and told them to go cut the tree down, they would split their hands and they would start turning because that's the way, based upon the intent, the external intent of what the job at hand is, they would turn. Because the bat is lighter, they don't feel like they just take it with their arms and they accelerate it. So weighted bats with young kids also important to get them to just their bodies to organize differently. Your body organizes based upon the external intent and based upon the weight that you're holding in your hand. So I hope that answers your question about motor skill and weighted bats. It's brain, neural stuff. It's like the backwards bike. Once the guy turned the wheels the different way, his brain was like, hold up a second, this isn't right. And so his neural connections and all these other things started happening. Trust me, it works. The weighted bat program works. I've got mountains of data that we have from our hit tracks about exit velocity and all these other things that work. Are there any other questions about weighted bat training, about hitting, about showcasing, about barrel extension, about anything? No questions. Okay, well, here's one on Instagram. How did players before weighted bats become successful? You don't have to have weighted bats to become successful, but if you want to change your swing or make your swing more efficient, then weighted bats just help you change a pattern. Like hitting is a complex pattern. It's not a set of static mechanics. It's complex. It's dynamic. There's a lot of parts and pieces. There's a lot of parts and pieces to it. So if you're going to affect change, you have to affect the external intent and the implement at hand. so that your brain starts to incorporate differently. How do you deal with parents that still believe in ground balls and conservative hitting? Show them the data, show them the numbers. I mean, there are mountains. Follow my Twitter. There are mountains of data points that indicate that balls launched between 10 and 20 degrees are more successful. I don't argue with coaches about that. The data is just mounted too high in favor of balls that are off the ground. That's not my opinion. That's what the data indicates. So, can't argue with numbers. Numbers will never lie. What do you think about doing your weighted bat program and playing game? It's fine. We do it 3 days a week. We do it 3 days a week. It doesn't affect the problem that you're going to have is this: your barrel speed is going to go up. Your barrel acceleration is going to go up. So figuring out with sped up bat speed and sped up acceleration how to time that's it. I mean, you're not going to ruin your swing. Your swing is going to become faster and more efficient. You're just going to have to figure out how to time that. That's all. I can see comments on Instagram. Yes. I don't know. I'm answering questions actually off of Instagram. Scap loading at launch. Elbow up, elbow down. I don't have druthers about elbow up, elbow down. It's a comfort thing. What you have to figure out about the scap and how deep your back elbow is going to be and how you're going to orient your shoulder alignment on the back corner of the plate within your load is how much lower body movement you're going to have to match. McCutcheon, if you watch McCutcheon, he doesn't have a Josh Donaldson leg kick, but he's got some movement, but the upper and the lower coordinate and allows him to clamp that scap within timing. My kids just turned the lights off. Don't turn the lights off. Within the timing of his load. Or the scap is the timing of the foot strike that's going to create that natural break in allowing the hips and the kinetic chain, the energy from the ground, to fire up the kinetic chain and allow the upper half to just hold itself until the energy spiraling up the chain catches. Here's a question. Is there a scale available to measure where you should be at for your age group and measuring your exit velocity? So if somebody asks, usually when I get college players, I don't know how old you are, but usually when I get questions about swings or exit velocity, I usually start the foundational question of how do I get my exit velocity up is what is your bench, your squat, and your deadlift. If you are not very strong, you're going to be limited in what you can do. So number one, get stronger in the weight room. After that, become more efficient in how you move the barrel. I don't get lost in what the numbers are today. This is the thing about numbers. I know what they are today. The question that I ask you is, do you have a plan to make them better moving forward? If you're a 7.6 runner, do you have a plan? If you're a low exit velocity person, do you have a plan? If you don't have a good squat, do you have a plan? If you don't have a good bench, do you have a plan? Most people don't, even the questions that I get on Snapchat from college players, they don't have a plan for how they're going to get stronger. What do you deadlift? 300. How are you going to get stronger? Well, I'm going to lift. What are you going to do? Well, I do sets of 10, 8, and 6, and then I do 5, 4, 3. Like, that's not a plan. That doesn't create muscle confusion over time. Just doing the same workout all the time is not going to get you stronger. Swinging the same weighted bats all the time, your body's going to say, let's take that for instance. If you swing the same 3-ounce weighted bat all the time, your body's going to say, okay, I got this. This is the most efficient way to move this 3-ounce weighted bat. And then you're going to be back to where you are with a normal bat. So you've got to constantly, in the bat speed program that I have, we spend 4 weeks on 3-ounce bat, 4 weeks on 5-ounce bat, 4 weeks on 7-ounce bat at different intervals in front toss and tee work. After that, we move into BP with our regular bat. We hit velocity 2 days a week we hit live pitching on one of those days off of the pitcher that are doing velocity development in the building. Similar to the driveline games. I don't know if you watched the driveline games yesterday. They're good. Driveline does great work. If you don't follow them, follow them. They do really good work. When it comes to the front foot, what is your ideal time when the foot lands? How hard's the person throwing? Your front foot's going to land. Your front foot is going to land when you want to swing the bat. Let your swing set your foot down. Get your foot up on time and let the intent to swing set your foot down. Don't worry about getting your foot down. I hear that a lot. Get your front foot down. Your front foot's going to go down. I've yet to see a swing where somebody swung with their front foot in the air. So get your foot up on time. Land your foot when you want to when the intent to swing happens. Right? I'm going to swing at this pitch. The foot's going to go down. Don't worry about it going down. It's going to go down. How much did the HitTrax cost? It was expensive. It was expensive, which is why I put out it's not the HitTrax that's important to you. It's the programs that we use to produce the measurements that we use the HitTrax for. We use the HitTrax as a measurement tool for our training. Our training is what's developed by the HitTrax. If the weighted bat program and the bat speed program didn't work on the HitTrax, we would change it. If the weights didn't work and improve the numbers that were on the HitTrax, we would change it. It's not the HitTrax, it's the programs that we use to improve the numbers that are in the HitTrax. That program costs you $125. It's a lot cheaper than the HitTrax, a lot cheaper. But we have to use the HitTrax because we have to verify the programs. That's the thing. I'm not throwing out blind programs. We have to verify the programs to make sure they work, based not on my opinion or anyone's opinion, based upon the numbers and the data that we have. That's the best way to do it. It's the best way I know how to do it, so that's what we do. What would you say your foundation of hitting mechanics are? Foundation of hitting mechanics, basically all I talk about in hitting mechanics is the load, how the body prepares to swing. I think once foot strike happens, the external, you have to be externally focused at that point. So we spend a lot of time on our external focus, and then once we figure out external focus, controlling the swing pattern, then we talk about what is the most efficient way for the player to load and prepare his body to turn and rotate. That's it. We don't talk a lot about the static mechanics of the swing. I don't use a lot of internal. I don't use zero internal cues actually when it comes to the swing. Extension, inside. I don't say any of that. We load up and we create for the individual player the best way that he can load and prepare to swing. After that, external intent governs the swing pattern within balance and posture. That's kind of way we do it. We don't talk a lot about hitting mechanics. It's figure out the best way that you figure out the parts and pieces that are going to be the most efficient way for you to load, and then balance posture and let the external intent to drive the ball in the air govern the swing pattern. That's it. Do you support more rotational linears? It's both. Okay, you have to produce linear momentum that's going to produce forward ground force. Okay, horizontal ground force that's going to allow your hips to rotate. Linear and rotational. Just hit the ball and just drive the ball in the air. I have some kids on my team that struggle with staying in their rear hip. Staying in your rear hip. If I had a singular answer that could work for everyone about staying in your rear hip, that would be awesome. I don't. They just got to figure out what loading around their back leg feels like, and then we do a lot of fields. We do field drills with PVCs, not hitting balls, trying to feel and understand the loading around your back hip and controlling the hovering of the front foot to the set down. We don't try to get them to feel it and understand it. To talk about it and identify it is one thing. To get players to feel and understand is a completely different concept. We use PVCs. We spend a lot of time not hitting balls, not hitting bats, talking about things such as staying in your rear hip, because it's different for everyone, because everyone feels their rear hip differently. It's hard to say there's one thing. Does the kid leg kick? Is he a toe tapper? Does he have a low? Does he heels? Is he a Chris Bryant? Is he a Daniel Murphy? Is he a Josh Donaldson? Is he a Chipper Jones? I mean, how does he load? How does he move his center of mass so that he creates horizontal ground force? Just spend time doing your field drills. They're in my hitting library of my hitting program. There are also other guys that put theirs online. That's fine. Stay in your rear hip for sure. You just got to figure out how for the individual. That's all. Are there any more questions? Instagram questions flying around. Not that many on Periscope. The Instagram is, if you don't follow my Instagram, follow it. A lot of video there. If you don't follow my Twitter, follow it. A lot of conversation there. If you're not in the training programs yet, I hope you consider getting into the training programs. There's a few different ways to get them. Go check them out on my webpage. Thinking about doing a live show during the week on Wednesday for the people that are in the program. Thanks. I'm glad you're watching. We're going to do this weekly, I think, on Instagram, and we may add it to Facebook. We may add Facebook, Instagram, and Periscope. But if you don't follow my channels, follow my channels. If you missed this, I'm trying to load last week's talk and this week's talk on my YouTube channel. If you don't follow me and subscribe to me on YouTube, go there. You'll find this talk and last week's talk. I've got to flip the video. I'm having a hard time loading it into my computer so I can flip the video. That's all. Are there any more questions about weighted bats, about hitting, about showcasing, recruiting, about anything? Just trying to be a resource here. My family and I are on vacation in Hilton Head, South Carolina, so I hope I'll be back in the cage by Wednesday. So, what are some cues to create size? There aren't any. You got to make sure you're hitting. You get, again, separation. How are you getting to the ground? These are more complex conversations than cues require. Swing weighted bats. I promise you, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It will blow your mind. It will blow your mind, really. All these things that you're looking for cues for, weighted bat and weighted bat program will take care of. I promise. Are axe bats the only? Skills makes weighted bats. Again, I've got a facility. I train 20 to 25 guys at one time. Different ages. I can't afford the axe bats or the skills bats, so we make our own. We take old wooden bats. We make them. And that way we can change the weights. You buy any of those. I'm not against those companies. They're good companies. Weighted bats are awesome. You just get locked into that one weight, and over time, your body's going to say, okay, I got this, and you're going to lose what you initially had in creating muscle confusion and different neural connection. You're going to lose that. So we make our own. We progress from 3 to 5 to 7 ounces over the course of 12 weeks, and then we back it up and we go backwards. So it's all weight. We're undulating the weight all the time, because so the brain is always having to work year-round, 365 days a year. We do it less in season. We don't swing many weighted bats in their high school season, because I don't see them that much, and they're on their own. I think Wake Forest, who led the country in homers this year, they swing weighted bats all the time. If you have access to your high school to swing them, you got to swing them a couple days a week. We used in the comments on Instagram. We drill holes in the end, use 5-inch lag screw in the end. We weigh it out on a digital scale what we're going to need to put in the bat, and we put it there. Tape the end. We tape the end, tape over the end, and then we go. We hit them. We haven't had any issues with them. Shoulder, the rotator cuff tube this week. I don't know if you saw that on my Instagram. people asking me about those. We sold a few of those on Instagram. If you want a rotator cuff tube, warm-up tube, shoot me a message. We're making them. We're testing a few glues, different glue compounds to make sure they hold. You can screw them apart and they fit in your bag. That's one of the problems people. Actually, I saw Kyle Bodie with somebody this week tweeting about not being able to pack up the shoulder tube and take it in their bag. So we took our in-house design, cut it, put some screws in it. It's working good. We're just making sure that the glue will hold it over time. If you want one, shoot me a DM either on where did you play college ball? I'll get to that. If you want a rotator cuff tube, warm-up tube, shoot me a DM on Instagram or Twitter, and we'll talk about it. Where did I play college ball? I signed out of high school to play Virginia Tech. I got drafted. I played pro ball for 4 years, so I didn't play in college. I skipped college. Anyone else? Anyone else? I think my kids are chomping at the bit to come out here, so I'm going to end this thing here if nobody else has questions. You can always shoot me DMs anytime. I have open DMs on Instagram and Twitter. You can shoot me DMs whenever you want, and I answer everything. I answer all hitting questions, all hitting videos. I answer everything. If you haven't checked out the player development program on my website, go check that out. Share this. I'd like to make this a weekly thing. If you guys are getting value from this, make sure you share it around, and make sure you tell your friends to watch and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Hopefully we're going to have it on Facebook next week. So I appreciate you watching, and I will see you next week, probably back from the cage. Okay? Thanks. There was a question on Periscope about weighted bats for softball players. Yes. Worked with one complete softball team this spring. They set school records for homers. Weighted bats for softball work fantastically well. It's awesome. And the softball bats are super hot. And hitting the ball over the fence is spectacularly easy if you just move more efficiently. So yes, we use weighted bats for softball. Anything else on Periscope? Okay. I'm going to end this. Thanks for watching again. Please share, and I will see you all next week.